Good evening. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and this evening will be a hero spotlight for Miles Morales. Miles Morales is an interesting hero. He doesn't have a hero-specific ally, and he doesn't have a lot of upgrades that stay on the board. In fact, he doesn't have any upgrades that stay on the board. His kit revolves around stunning and confusing, and then getting damage in with arachnobatics. Stunning and confusing is very, very strong against certain bosses. As the game goes on, more and more scenarios interplay where the villain has steady or stalwart. And against a steady or stalwart villain, Miles Morales takes quite a hit because the power of his kit relies on being able to stun and or confuse. You have cards like Defensive Mechanism that simply allow you to resolve Miles's Spider Camouflage ability, which confuses and gives a tough status card. Well, if you reduce the value of confuse, you reduce the value of Defense Mechanism by half. Power Within gives 2 damage and a stun. If you remove this stun, you're only getting 2 damage, and that's not much for 1 cost. So we analyze heroes in terms of how much content they can take on. Well, Miles Morales is somewhat niche because he does struggle against steady or stalwart villains, and his kit does not have a good way to do a large amount of burst damage. The heroes that make it into the S plus tier are heroes that have the ability to have a big turn in terms of their resource generation, and then they parlay that into big damage. The heroes that make it into the S tier, they do something similar, just less so than the S plus tier heroes. But Miles doesn't really have that kind of ability. He's not a burst damage type of hero. He's a hero that does steady damage over time, and therefore he can struggle against villains that have the retaliate trait as well, and that is quite common for high difficulty expert or heroic 1. Well, mainly expert villains. As the game went on, more villains would have retaliate in phase 3, and Miles can run into problems with that. But there is a lot that he can do because his events are strong when stun and confuse are effective if the villain doesn't have steady or stalwart. And he is quite effective when he doesn't have to deal with retaliate as well. So let's take a look at some gameplay with Miles Morales. As you can see, we're running an aggression deck utilizing Press the Advantage, which deals 2 damage, and if that enemy is stunned or confused, draw a card. This has good synergy with Miles's kit. And then we're running a wide range of aggression allies along with basic allies to chump block for Miles because his defensive cards are a little bit lacking. Unlike Spider-Man, he does not have a backflip to help him defensively, and he has 2 defense instead of 3. And he is worse at defense, I would say, than Ghost Spider as well. So we're running a lot of allies in order to help him out with that. The first scenario we're going to take a look at, going to try him against, is going to be Master Mold on expert difficulty. So here we go. Master Mold. When Master Mold does have stalwart, and he has toughness to begin the game. When Master Mold schemes against you, discard cards from the encounter deck until a Sentinel minion is discarded. Put that minion into play engaged with you. Do not give Master Mold a boost card for this activation, so we don't want him to scheme. We do get the benefit of Magneto. Each Sentinel minion gains guard. When revealed, each player discards until they discard a Sentinel minion. Then put it into play engaged with them. So we're trying out a scenario right away where the villain has stalwart, and then we're going to show some scenarios where the villains do not have stalwart. We'll see how Miles does. So it's a Sentinel Mark III, and when revealed, search the encounter deck and discard power for the energy barrier We don't need to do the when revealed, we just put it into play engaged with us. That's a decent opening hand, we'll keep it. We'll get out Throg right away. Actually, we don't need to keep power within when we're facing a stalwart villain, so let's get rid of that. And Arachnopatics, and we'll draw 2. Then we'll go 2 for Throg and add a toughness. We'll flip. We'll go 1, 2, 3 for Hobie Brown. We'll attack for 1 and remove that toughness, and then we'll go 3 for Magneto, and after he attacks and defeats his Sentinel, heal 1 damage from him, and then we'll go 2 for Miles on Master Mold, and we'll draw 5. Leave the toughness on Throg so that he can defend the attack. So 1 threat, 1 attack from Master Mold. No problem. And 1 encounter card. So exhaust Miles and surge into a Shadow of the Past. That's a tough way to start, but no problem. Probably no problem. Okay, here we go. Let's see, what do we want to do for the hero turn? We'll use press the advantage to get out Web Shooter. I think we're going to use Web Shooter to get out Double Life. Change form, and if using a strength resource, ready your identity. So we can shuffle a card back in. A Miles Morales card. We'll take the damage card. And then we can flip back to hero form using our normal ability. We can go, let's go Hobie, go Spider-Man and Magneto and take care of Prowler. Let's go Hobie Brown and drop 2 threat off of Tracking Prey. And we'll retire Hobie Brown, discard the top 3 of the encounter deck. So that's 3, 4, 6 damage. It's good damage from Hobie Brown, and then get out Ironheart and draw a card. And I think we'll just thwart for 1 and draw 4. Not a good spot to draw Power of Aggression. So 2 threat, 1 attack from Master Mold, which will go on Ironheart. 1 encounter card, which will be Sentinel Mark 5. Search the encounter deck and discard pile for targeted for elimination and reveal it. Oh, there it is. While you are engaged with a Sentinel, you cannot change from hero to alter ego. Not too big a deal, not something we really like to do in any case. Let's go ahead and go 1, 3 for Ghost Spider. Go 1, 2, and then have Magneto take out the Sentinel. Heal up for 1. We'll go Throg and get rid of Tracking Prey. Miles for 2 thwart, and we'll play Assess the Situation and draw 6. 1 threat, 1 attack. And 1 encounter card, which will be Master Mold's Children. Each minion engaged with you attacks. If you're not engaged with a minion, Master Mold attacks. And we'll have Spider-Man defend that, I think. So the attack is for 5, so 3 damage. And And then we're on to the hero turn, and we'll go web shooter for web shooter. 1, 2, 3, 4 for Wolverine. And then we'll use Magneto to thwart for 2, and we'll get some damage in. And then go ahead and draw 4. So, 1 attack. And when Ghost Spider leaves play, search for an identity-specific event. The one that we want is probably going to be Arachnobatics. Of these, we could take a 4 damage, but 4 damage for 2 is kind of inefficient. 1 damage for 2 isn't really any better. Let's see, with this hand, let's take the web shot. And then we have 1 encounter card coming, which is Shields Up. Give each Sentinel minion engaged with you a tough status card, otherwise this gains Surge. Sentinel Mark 5. He attacks because targeted for elimination is attached, and we'll just take the 1 damage. Wolverine heals for 1. Go 2, 4 for Nick Fury, and draw 3. Okay, so we'll go 2 damage, 3 damage. Drop him into phase 3. Well, actually, I don't want to do that with Wolverine's attack. Let's drop him into phase 3 with a web shot for 1, 2. So that's 4 damage. And then we did pay for this using a lightning resource, so we get 2 damage more. Remove that toughness. I guess it doesn't really matter when we do Wolverine's attack. He doesn't gain any additional abilities in phase 3. So we'll go. I'm going to use Blade for double. Well, we can't switch to Alter Ego because of the targeted for elimination. So let's go Blade and double life for 2. Press the advantages and deal 2 damage and 2 damage. And then we'll assess the situation. Draw 6. 1 threat, 1 attack from Master Mold. And 1 encounter card. Stun Beam. Gain Surge, that's a Sentinel attachment. Caught off guard, gonna get rid of the web shooter. So 9 damage, do we have that? We got 3, 6, 7, 8. Yep, no problem. Lightning, Science, Strength for Peter Parker. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and that will finish off Master Mold. A relatively modest difficulty scenario, but one that does not necessarily play to Miles Morales' strengths because he has Stalwart, and yet Miles is still able to clear it. So let's move on and let's take a look at one that is more familiar, that's been spotlighted, that's been played against by a few heroes in our spotlights. We have played against with a few heroes in our spotlights. That's a better way to say that. And that would be Crossbones on Heroic 1. Here we go with Miles versus Crossbones on Heroic 1 difficulty. This looks like I started the wrong video. Looks like that previous playthrough was lost to time. That's alright, we'll just do a new one. Miles versus Crossbones on Heroic 1. He was able to defeat Absorbing Man on Heroic 1 in about 5 minutes. We'll see how Crossbones goes this time. don't want to keep Gankly. Assess the situation. Okay, that hand is fine. Go ahead and flip. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 for Nick Fury and draw 3. Get out a web shooter, another web shooter, and then we'll go 1, 2 for web shot. Get 6 and a stun, and then 4 and draw 5. So, for the villain, 1 threat, remove stun, and 2 encounter cards. Also, we need an experimental weapons card for the villain. And if there had been a retaliate on there, I would have needed to mark off some damage. Crossbones Assault. That's a pretty nasty side scheme. And a Hydra Soldier, and then Nick Fury will leave. So, what do we want to do here? Go 1, 2, and 3 for Thor. Get out a defense mechanism. So we can attack with Thor, attack with Miles, 1 encounter card, but we got no way, if we do that, to deal with the threat, and the scheme is going to advance. So let's have 3 there, and let's use Thor's ability. When Thor attacks a minion engaged with the player, spend a lightning resource. Resolve this attack against each minion engaged with that player. So we'll do the lightning resource and resolve the attack again against this minion. And then we'll use Miles to thwart. And after he uses a basic power, we'll discard defense mechanism, resolve spider camouflage, which is a confuse and a toughness. We'll play assess the situation and we'll draw 6. So 2 threat, 1 attack, which is going to go on Miles. First we need Crossbones Machine Gun for 2. That's going to remove the toughness, and then Miles will defend. 1, 2, 3, 4, so 2 damage, and then 3 encounter cards. A Jet Trooper with Quick Strike 2. Concussion Grenade, that's going to be a stun and 1 damage. And Assault. We're going to have Thor tank that, but we got Crossbones Machine Gun for 0 this time. That's good. And Thor's going to have to tank this. Okay. Well, can't attack, so we can't press the advantage or swing in. We can swing in, we can't press the advantage. Let's go 1, 2 for Throg and get a toughness. 1, 2 for swing in. Remove threat. And then let's flip to Alter Ego here. Shuffle a card back in. And draw 6. Ready up. So 2 threat and remove confuse. Hydra Jet Trooper schemes for 0. 2 encounter cards. Got full auto, that's just a surge. That one's pretty nasty if you're in hero form. Gang up is a surge. Master Plan. And Madam Hydra. Okay, well, let's flip back to hero form. Let's remove the stun. We'll go 1, 2 for web shot. Deal 6. Well, let's deal 4. then 2 into stun with the Venom Blast. And we'll use, let's go Machine Man. And when he attacks, we'll spend our Web Shooter resource so that he boosts his attack to 2 and take out Madam Hydra. That is going to leave the scheme to advance, but I think at this point we just let that happen. And we'll use Throg to push Crossbones into phase 3, reveal another experimental card, and we'll draw 4. We're in reasonably good shape here, so the main scheme is going to advance. That's going to be another experimental weapon card. That's not the right. Power Gauntlets. The villain removes stun. Jet Trooper deals 2. 2 encounter cards. Crossbones armor, that's going to be a pain. Caught off guard, that's a surge because we don't have any supports or upgrades. Exhaustion. And that's going to bring Madame Hydra back in. Can we deal 16 here? We got 6, 7, 8, 9. Not really. So how do we want to do this? We can go 1, 2 for web shot. 2 additional threat for each Hydra enemy. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So web shot deals 6, which will get rid of. So we deal 4, and then we deal 2 and a stun. Gets rid of Crossbones armor. Double life. Actually, I don't think I will. I think I'll use 4 plus 3. I'll spend 3 resources to give Machine Man plus 3 attack. So 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. And then we'll flip to Alter Ego and draw 6 after we shuffle Web Shot back in. And we'll just hope we can finish him off next round. 2 threat, a scheme for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's another experimental weapon card. That's the Retaliate. Then a scheme for 2. That's going to be 2 threat on Legions of Hydra. Then we got 3 encounter cards coming. And if we survive those 3 encounter cards, then we're going to win. Under fire, that's 2 more. Hydra Flame Soldier. Legions of Hydra number 2. So 2, 4, 6. Then we got Crossbones Assault again. And Hydra Jet Trooper, no quick strike because we're in Alter Ego. So, well, we can flip back. He's got Retaliate now. Do I care? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I may care about that. We may have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So, Lightning, Science, Strength for Peter Parker. Flip. Go. 1, 2. Ready up. 1, 2. 1 damage. 1, 2. Actually, doing it that way, I'm a little bit short. So let's rewind. And and think about this turn. So he's got 10 HP. 2, 4. If we have Miles do the final attack, then it won't matter if he only has 1 HP. So if we play Spider-Man, he can go 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8. That should be enough. So we go pay for Peter Parker. We'll flip, attack for 2. Take 1 from retaliate. 2, ready up. 2, boost him by 2. So he was at 2 consequential damage. That's 3. And then that's the final damage. And you don't take retaliate if the villain is dead. So it doesn't matter that he ends on 1 HP. Well, clearly, Miles does not generate the kind of resources necessary to keep up with a boss like Crossbones on Heroic 1. Some heroes do, but Miles is going to rely on the low HP totals of this boss and strategic use of stuns and confuses to get through scenarios like this one. Which means against some scenarios, if he doesn't win quickly, he's not going to win because all he has for a resource generation is web shooter. So bosses that bring in attachments that require you to spend a lot of resources to get rid of, he's going to have a rough time with that. But he is able to accomplish some things with those stuns and confuses and get wins on difficult content that way. Let's move on now to Green Goblin Mutagen formula on Heroic 1. Here we go with Green Goblin Mutagen formula on Heroic 1 difficulty. A major barrier to advancement through the gauntlet that I use to test heroes because of the amount of resources that Green Goblin is able to bring to the table. He brings a lot of minions. And typically heroes that don't generate a lot of resources that can bring allies or events to bear on those minions. Those heroes don't do that well. Though there are exceptions such as Captain Marvel, who was able to bring so much burst damage to the table that she could down Green Goblin before he could really get going. We'll see how Miles does. Get out Nick Fury and Ghost Spider to start. And 4 encounter cards. Caught off guard's a blank surge since there's no upgrades or supports. Got ICU, so that's going to be an extra attack for Green Goblin. For no damage. And then Goblin Glider, Goblin Thrall, and Interrogation, which is an extra boost card. Not that bad. Could be worse. Let's go Blade and Throg for a web shot and add 2 damage and a stun with the Venom Blast, and then 2 more damage from Ghost Spider. And we'll get out a defense mechanism as well and draw 5. So I'm cautiously optimistic at this point. So Venom Goblin removes his stun, and then we got 2 encounter cards. Master Plan's going to bring in a side scheme. Goblin reinforcements, and then Gang Up is going to be an extra attack. Or the first attack this round since he was stunned. It'll go on Ghost Spider, and that means we'll get to look for an identity specific event. Most likely, you could make a case for swing in here. Arachnobatics can get some decent value, and you do need to rush Green Goblin down before he really gets the chance to get going, because we're not going to be able to have the resources to deal with either his attachments or the minions if he brings more than one per round to the table. So just debating what I want to do here. Get out a web shot, deal 6 damage and a stun. Clear the side scheme, because that would mean an extra encounter card, and we'll get a toughness, and this means a max damage Arachnobatics. 8 damage, which will drop Green Goblin into phase 3. And means 3 encounter cards. Off to a very good start in this one. Pretty decent chance we could just blitz the Green Goblin down, making use of that stun. So this turn he removes the stun, next turn we'll flip to Alter Ego and he can remove the Confuse. We got Goblin Soldier, we got Shadows of the Past. Uh-oh, that's trouble. Overconfidence. Green Goblin attacks you, and if he deals 3 damage, it surges. It won't, because we got toughness. Hysteria. And Goblin Thrall. Well, that's going to make it tough to blitz down this boss. Get to press the advantage for 2 damage. Though I'm thinking now I'd like that to go on Green Goblin because he's confused, so I could draw a card. But I don't have a way to deal with the Goblin Thrall at all, so I'm going to have to use 1 press the advantage to deal with the Green Goblin, and then I can use the other one. Draw a card. And I may just use swing in here to remove tracking prey. And I get a toughness on Miles. And flip to Alter Ego. I forgot to add the toughness to Miles, I think. Boss was already confused, but Miles should have gotten a toughness there. So up to 6 threat on the main scheme. Can we get the 18 damage before getting overwhelmed? Doesn't look like it at this point. The villain was able to get a lot done in that 5 encounter card turn. So I'm in a spot where I don't think that I can rush down the villain, and so I'm thinking about removing threat from unleashing the mutagen. Gonna play Spider Girl here, I think. There's no way to play Peter Parker, unfortunately. If one of those lightning resources was a science or a strength resource, I could. And that would give me a much better chance to win if I could do that. Thinking about using double life here. Saving Peter Parker for next round. We'll let the villain advance the scheme here. And then try to rush him down after that. So he's going to scheme with 2 encounter cards. With 2 boost cards. don't know why I added pumpkin bombs to the table. This is another mistake in favor of the villain. So we've got 5 damage, maybe 9 damage in hand. If we could last one more turn after this, we'd probably be okay, but I don't think we're going to be able to. Even if I hadn't for some reason added a second pumpkin bombs to the table. The villain's got too much on the table with Goblin Knight and Prowler. Typically, with any kind of borderline hero at all, if you get Shadows of the Past or you get Goblin Knight or the monster, you're going to lose on this scenario. We can drop him down to 9 HP. Press the advantage down to 7, so if we survive here, but we don't survive because the villain gets +1 scheme for each minion, so we threat out. So we'll get reset and we'll try it again. Once again, turn 1 Nick Fury. And we've got Lightning, Science, and Strength for Peter Parker, so that's good. Can get off to a pretty strong turn 1 start. Nick Fury's going to tank the attack. Then we got Hysteria. Wicked Ambitions. That could end this scenario right now with a bad draw. Goblin Soldier will take 3 damage to prevent that. Goblin Thrall, I'll have to put him on the table. And then Monster will have to take the 3 damage again. Goblin Thrall number 2, and Exhaustion, so a pretty big turn for Green Goblin. To Overconfidence, that's going to be an attack that's going to have to go on Peter Parker or we die. And the villain heals, and that's likely game right there. That's just too big a turn. 4 miles to deal with. So we use the web shot, 4 damage to one enemy and then 2 to the other to finish it off. So we do clear the board. We've got only 3 HP and Throg on the table. And I haven't gotten any damage on Green Goblin yet. I forgot for a second that I was an alter ego, but I'm gonna remember in just a moment and then put 2 threat on the main scheme instead of killing Throg. And 2 encounter cards, Pumpkin Bombs, and Goblin Knight, and that's gonna do it right there. With a slow start and then the Goblin Knight coming out early. So probably should have done 4 damage to the Goblin Knight there and then 2 to the Green Goblin. So do need to deal with Goblin Knight, and then I could have used Thor to finish off the Goblin Knight. I think that would have been a better way to do this. Plus 4 HP on Green Goblin, but Goblin Knight would be dead. Intimidation's a pretty mild encounter card. Typically not sad to see that one. Thor can put in some work here with that extra attack against every minion for the cost of a lightning resource. We'll get a web shot. So Miles is putting up a fight here. Remove the stun. We got 2 encounter cards. Master plan. And go through most of the encounter deck to find Overrun. And then Shadow of the Past, that's really rough. We had Goblin Knight plus Shadow of the Past in both attempts. So Miles could do better against this villain than he showed here. With a perfect draw, he's probably capable of downing it. But the win rate is not going to be very high. Get out Web Shooter. And probably Machine Man. Can get rid of Overrun and hope for the best. That's good. That's not good. I'll have to thwart for 2. If I had another lightning resource, I could use Thor again to clear the board. That would be a high value Thor. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that this round. So Miles defends against the Prowler's attack, then takes the Goblin Thrall to the face. Prowler attacks the player with the fewest hit points remaining, and that's going to have to go on Thor, which unfortunately means I'm not going to be able to clear the board now. And Prowler's attack again ends this attempt. So what Miles can do is he can control the game as long and deal a pretty high amount of damage as long as the villain doesn't have too high of an HP pool or bring too many resources to the table in terms of minions or attachments, and as long as the villain doesn't have Stalwart, though he can still do okay against villains that have Stalwart as long as they're not bringing too much else, like with Master Mold. And then in addition, against Retaliate, he can run into problems with his low HP pool. But he's still going in the A tier for me. There's a lot that he can do. And so he's a strong A tier hero. And he'll be in there with heroes like Gambit, Venom, Spider-Man, SPDR, and Iron Man. He's a good, strong hero. Got his weaknesses, but he's a good, strong hero. And his events can do quite a lot of work in the right scenarios. So, that's Miles Morales, and thank you for watching.